So last week I was working on new sprites for enemies, and I think I mentioned in the video or the blog last week that I was going to be moving on to bosses at some point in the future, but also spending a little time working on shopkeepers. And when I said that, I was thinking that I was going to be mostly doing sprites for like shopkeepers and merchants. I had some idea that I was going to be redoing the shopping interface, improving that over what was seen in the vertical slice build. But I don't think I anticipated just how much of a challenge that was going to be. So today I'm going to be talking about everything that I've done to improve the look and feel of shopping in Gunmetal Arcadia Zero. So let's take a look first at what the shopping interface looked like in the vertical slice build. So this was one of the shopkeepers that you could meet, and you can walk up to them, talk to them. They'll give you a little intro text. You can choose to buy or sell. If you buy, they give you a list of items. And choose one of these. And they'll give you a description. And let's say that I didn't want to do this and I just want to go back and I hit B button to cancel. It just cancels out the entire thing, and then I have to talk to him again and go through the same intro dialogue. And it's skippable, but it's still more button presses. So I can go through that process a few times. If I sell, he says that he can buy gems. To see how many gems I have to hit the back button to go to my status screen, where it will show me like what sub-weapon I have equipped, even though that's already on the HUD. And then I go to the inventory and it tells me I don't have any gems. And this whole thing was just kind of hacked together very, very quickly using tools that I already had for creating dialog trees. So if I switch over to the editor, we can take a look at what this looked like in practice. I guess I'll just close out this. I don't need that anymore. All right. So this was the shopkeeper that I used in the vertical slice build. And this is all the XML markup that defines how he behaves. And this dialog provider tag here, all the way down to the end of this. That's all the markup that was required to do that one character, and I just copied and pasted him around a few times, and I had a few little bits of template text where it could set like how much he would buy and sell, or how much he would buy gems for. So like if you talk to the vendor at the end of the vertical slice demo, he pays more for gems than the rest of them do, and that sort of thing. But it was all, it was just sort of cobbled together using this dialog tree tool that I built for Super Win the Game. And this obviously wasn't going to scale very well because I had to write a whole bunch of text to say, okay, you can buy a longsword versus a dagger or whatever, and each one of these had some markup to handle whatever the game needs to do under the hood to make that happen, to give the player that item. And yeah, it was a mess. So my goal was to still take the interface that I had built, still take the tools for creating dialog trees, because I knew that a shopping interface was still fundamentally going to be similar to that, but automate some of the process. Be able to just define a list of items that the vendor can sell, and under the hood, the code does all the work to actually produce basically produce all the same markup. So that was where I started, and I guess I'll just take a look first at what it turned out to be. I've shown a little bit of this in pictures on Twitter and stuff, but this is the up-to-date version of the shopping interface. You talk to this guy, first of all, there's a two-panel interface here, where on the top it has the title of the shop, has some intro text at the bottom, as it did before, and then you go to buy, sell, and exit. One very important thing to notice here is that if I go to the buy menu and then hit B, it goes back to this. I can go to the sell menu and then go back to that. So that feels better. It's more like you have this idea of like nested menus that you can back out of. You don't have to talk to him and listen to the intro text every time. But yeah, then you get the list of items, you have the price right next to it. For items that have a limited stock, it will show the number next to it. And then you've got the description up on top in that panel up there, so you don't have to go through like another bit of dialogue where he describes the item before you can choose to buy it. If you want to buy something, it tells you the price again. Of course, you still have the description up on top. You can choose to buy that. It will ask you if you want to equip it immediately. You can choose to do that or not. And then if you do equip it, you can also sell back the thing that you previously had equipped. Right now, it's selling back for more money than what I paid for the new weapon, which is a bug, but I'll fix that. I took that from Earthbound. It was always nice to be able to say, yeah, I want to sell my baseball bat for whatever new item, and yes, I want to equip it immediately and sell back my other one. When you go to the sell screen now, not only do you have, it showed gems here if you have any, but you can also sell weapons and items, which is not something that I had initially been planning to do, but as I started stepping through this, it started to feel more like I needed a real JRPG sort of inventory system, where you can have a list of equipment to equip or unequip or switch between at any time. So you have that now. If I buy a few more things here but don't equip them, what you'll see is that at any time while I'm playing the game, I can hit the back button to bring up an inventory screen. And it looks similar to the shopping interface we just saw. It's a 2-panel thing with a description on top. And now I can switch between these, and it will show how many of each I have available and show which one I currently have equipped. That one will always be on top. I have the hand icon there, which I may need to change based on feedback that I got on Twitter. But yeah, and then you can click on one of these to select it and equip it. And yeah, switch out your weapons just like that. And then, yeah, if I go talk to the vendor again and sell these, I can sell anything that I don't have equipped. So if I try to sell the one I have equipped, it will tell me you can't do that. But I can sell anything else. So I basically do have that sort of like JRPG system now, where you can have a whole stock of items and switch between them anytime you want while playing, which I think sort of changes the scope of what this game is a little bit in my mind. I had been imagining I would probably want that sort of feature for Gunmetal Arcadia Zero, or I'm sorry, for Gunmetal Arcadia proper, the roguelike game coming at some point way down the road. But for Gunmetal Arcadia Zero, I was thinking about keeping things a little bit simpler, keeping things a little bit closer to like Castlevania on the NES, where you just have your one weapon that maybe gets a few upgrades as you play, and you can switch out sub weapons just by collecting those throughout gameplay. But yeah, this idea of having an inventory with items you can switch between, I think is going to change the scope a little bit, so I'll be trying to react to that very, very quickly as I try to crash land this game in the next couple of months here. So there's a few other things I can do with this. Let me see if I can find some gems real quick to show how that will work. There might be some in this treasure chest down here. Alright, yeah. So we'll grab a couple of gems there. You can see those show up in the inventory now. It tells me I can't equip them if I try to. And of course I put another vendor down here, and I can sell the gems. And yeah. I don't yet have the option to say like sell an entire stack of things at once. I'm not sure I'm going to support that, just because I kind of like to move on to other tasks. I've already spent a very, very long time relative to my development schedule. I spent a long time working on this one feature, and I kind of need to move on to other things. But yeah, so you can buy and sell gems, and that's going to be sort of a way of depending on who you sell those to, and there may be different types of gems too, and some vendors will pay more for certain kinds. So that will be a way that you can sort of try to get the most money for your items. There will also be equipment and augmentations to do things like change your jump height, change your maximum health, stuff like that. So I'm still figuring out exactly what that will look like as far as how to present that on the inventory screen and how to show what you have equipped and what you don't, but I'm working on all that stuff. I do want to take a look here real quick at what this looks like in markup, since I showed what the other one looks like. This is the markup for this new vendor, and let me see if I can find. All right, so if you remember the giant dialog provider node that the other one had. It's trimmed down to this now, and basically what it does is it starts by saying like, we create a template that has like buy, sell, exit, and then a banner that we put up on top. The buy menu actually just makes a callback to the game, and the game understands how to build the rest of the tree from there. And we do the same thing for the sell menu. And then we have, their initial greeting that they say the first time you talk to them. And then down in the instance markup everything in this top window here, this is like markup that every vendor uses. And then down here, this is markup that gets automatically applied when I place an instance of the entity in the world, but it can be changed per instance. So this is sort of, the best case scenario of what I was wanting to do. I want to say like, hey, I just want to give this guy a list of items that he can sell, and that's exactly what I've done here. I have this vendor tag, and he has an inventory, and I can specify a number of items in there, and these are just names of entities that I've already created in the editor. I can specify a stock. If it's less than 0, it means unlimited. He can sell as many of those as he wants to buy, or he can have a limited number of things, so you can sell out and have rarer items. And then up here I have what I call vendor traits, and this is where I can, on a vendor by vendor basis, I can change how much they'll pay, or how much they'll charge for items and how much they'll pay for things that you sell to them, based on a number of traits. You can have a global scaler where some vendors will just charge more for everything across the board. You can have item specifiers where, like, for specific items they'll have different rates. You can have classes of items. So for instance, I have this Vanguard thing here where like any weapon that the Gunmetal Vanguard uses, they might pay more for those, or they might sell them for cheaper, like if this is a Gunmetal Vanguard merchant. And then I have this dynamic thing here, which this pulls traits from the player themselves. So like, this is just an example. I don't actually have this working in the game yet, but if the player had some sort of fame stat where, like, as they do heroic things, they become more famous, vendors can adjust their prices according to that too. So between all of these things, I feel like I have enough functionality to probably do more than I'll need for Gunmetal Arcadia Zero, but this actually puts me in a really good place for the roguelike Gunmetal Arcadia to be able to randomly generate really interesting combinations of things where, like, oh hey, I found this one merchant somewhere in a dungeon who pays really really well for certain types of items, so I need to remember that guy is there so I can go back to him and sell my items and get some cash to buy that really nice weapon I want, and all that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm really excited about like what sort of power that's going to give me, as I start working on the roguelike game. For Gunmetal Arcadia Zero, I think it will be interesting, but because there is like, it's fixed content, it's going to be like 6 levels, and there will only be so many merchants, and I'll sort of be figuring out on a case-by-case basis, where are the interesting, points to put merchants who will sell things at different prices. So. I want to try to get some of that flavor in there, but it's not going to be randomly generated. It's not going to be necessarily as surprising as it would be in a roguelike situation. But yeah, that's sort of what I've been working on the last almost an entire week, which is longer than I wanted to spend on this, but it's come together really well, and yeah, I'm happy with where it turned out. Character portraits, that was the other thing too. Sorry, my brain is all over the place today. As I was working on like changing the dialog boxes for the inventory and for the shopping interface, I was like, well, I know that there are other things I want to do with dialog boxes, so I started working on character portraits. I don't have real art for these yet, but I can put a box next to the dialog box where it shows a face, and it scales the text in the other window accordingly, and you can still get your list of options over here to talk to characters, and of course those all animate in nicely and all that stuff. So yeah, that's one of those things that I've been wanting from I would have liked to have put character portraits in Super Win the Game, and it didn't happen. I didn't have time to do that for that one, and I was like, okay, I really need to do that for this one, because I want to like distinguish between just random NPCs in the background and characters who are actually like important to the narrative. And yeah, so character portraits is one way of doing that. You'll also notice here when I talk to this guy, it puts his name, this guy's name is Gannett, so it puts his name up in the dialog box. That's an option. I didn't actually like write that into the dialogue. I just have the option to give characters a name, and it automatically, you know, prepends the text with their name and a line break. So not every character in the game will have a name, not every character will have a portrait, not everyone will get that sort of presentation, but for characters who are like important to the narrative, it will be presented in a way that, you know, calls attention to the fact that, hey, this is a character that you should remember and should know about, and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's I guess the other half of all this dialog box improvement was to do that. And then I'm working on a little bit of like what's a good way to describe it? In-game cutscenes, or, you know, narrative type stuff. So like, you know, after you talk to this character, she walks away, and then like you can leave the building and go back in, and she's still gone. So I'm working on having those little like dynamic things that can happen in the game, which I didn't really have any of that sort of stuff in Superman. I faked it a little bit in some places, like, you know, where you meet the wizard at the very end of the game, but it was all super super faked. So I probably won't have too many of those moments, because they are a little bit expensive to produce, just in terms of how long it takes me to do those. But yeah, I'm excited to see where those go. So yeah, that's sort of the dialog box improvements that I've been doing, and sort of some of my goals for where shopping and narrative stuff is going to go in Gunmetal Arcadia Zero. I guess I'm just about out of time here, so I'll go ahead and wrap this up. I mentioned in Monday's blog that I'm adjusting my schedule a little bit, trying to land this game a little bit sooner than I had been previously planning. So if I seem a little bit all over the place in today's video, that's why. I've just been crunching for the last week. I'm probably going to be crunching for the next couple of months. But yeah, everything is coming together really fast. It's exciting to see the game start to take shape, and it's going to be finished and playable before I know it. As always, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Feel free to leave comments below this video. This series is supported through Patreon. You can find those links below. And a big thank you to everyone who is already supporting me on there. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.